Hey guys, Matt Richard here in our next modes lesson. If you're following along, I'm doing sort of a series of foundational building blocks that I feel are important for guitar and music theory in general, but as applied to guitar. I mean, this is obviously, I'm a guitar player primarily. This stuff is things I feel that a lot of guys miss or just skipped over. I missed out on it for quite a bit of my early learning because I was mainly an ear guy and I didn't learn all this stuff, and I'm glad that I know it now. So I kind of wanted to make a series to introduce those of you who might be in the same spot I was, or maybe just want some clarity on the modes. This is what this series is for. So we've gone in order. So we started at C at the 1, and we worked our way C, D, E, F, G up through Mixolydian, and we stopped there. So our next lesson is minor or Aeolian. This is sort of, you could call this either one. The one is always, Ionian. Most people just say major, but it is technically the Ionian mode. So A is Aeolian or minor. It's our good old natural minor scale. It can be seen as sort of boring, and this one might be one you might be tempted to skip over, but don't do that, because there's some cool stuff in here that I want to show you, and we're going to get right to it. So our first way to build, of course, minor or Aeolian would be to look at our key, our major scale. We know how to build a major scale with that whole half formula we learned way back in lesson 1. We picked C major, so we wrote out C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and I kept going just a little bit for purpose of illustration here. We start at the mode we want to make. So Aeolian is the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course, 6 is A. So we're going to play A, Aeolian, or A minor. And we're going to play A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. We're going to play C major. We're going to play A to A. So what I want to do is, I'm going to go ahead and fire up our little drum machine guy over here, and it's got C major programmed in it. We always kind of like to set our ear up for the mode that we're going to learn so that we can hear how different it is from the C major scale, rather than just sitting here and sort of playing acoustically and not having a reference for where our ear is supposed to be pulled. And it's very important to have a backing track. I say it, I'm sure every lesson, I've said it a few times, and I'll say it again. It's very, very, very important. So get some backing tracks or some YouTube, something. Find something to play along with. So first, let's fire up C major. Let's play for just a second, just to sort of get our ears primed. Got sort of a little funky thing going on today. C major, cool, fun, happy mode, right? We know what that sounds like. Let's change just the backing chord. All we're going to do is we're going to modify this to A, and of course it's going to be minor. We learned way back that we numbered these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we know the 1 is major, the 2 is minor, the 3 is minor, the 4 is major, the 5 is dominant or major depending on what the situation is. 6 is minor, and 7 is like a minor 7 flat 5 diminished thing. This is another one that's going to get some special consideration. 5 is a 2-part lesson, and 7 is probably going to be a 2-part lesson too, because there's some really neat stuff we can do with that one. But let's stay with the 6. The 6 is plain old minor, so I've got a minor chord programmed in the drum machine. Let's let that go. Let it come back around and pick up on A. All right. Now let's see what happens. So that was A minor. It was just the notes of C major thrown on top of an A minor chord, which gives us A Aeolian or A minor. Very cool. What you probably noticed, For any of you who are players already, you're not, a very sort of base level beginner, you probably saw the pentatonic scale in there. And you may know this already, but when we play natural minor, that is where our core, the pentatonic scale we all learn right out the gate. That's where that comes from. It's built out of that sixth mode, or that natural minor. Right? That's the notes of C major. Just, we're playing less of them now because we're not playing. That's the whole minor scale, and then the pentatonic is just this. Right? So you probably know that already. The fingering will be in the blog. If you do need that, refresher on those pentatonic shapes, I'll put that in there for you. But that is just less notes extracted. Pentatonic is 5 tonic, penta being 5. The pentatonic scale was designed because all the notes sound good. That's kind of what the whole deal is with the pentatonic. If you're ever wondering why this little sort of 2-note per string scale was invented, is all those notes sound good. 5 tonics, like having 5 roots. You'll notice when you practice these things against a chord, you land on some notes, they don't sound quite as good, quite as hip. It's right, it's diatonic to the scale, but if you're playing C major and you land on a B, it's usually not a good idea to just sit on the 7. It creates tension. You don't want to finish a solo on the B and C major and then put your guitar down. Like, you leave everybody sort of like ticked off at you, ready to strangle you, because they want you to resolve to the, it's like playing a suspended, like one of these D chords, and never playing the, you just leave everybody on edge. So, pentatonic, 5 notes, that's where the pentatonic scale comes from. So, of course, anytime we're faced with an Aeolian or a minor situation, we can play the natural minor or the pentatonic. Which brings me to the next point. We always have sort of a backup plan, or just a second. I don't call it a backup, because sometimes it's better to use this one than it is to use this approach. This is all sort of whatever the case happens to be at the time it's presented to you when you're improvising or writing. In this scenario, instead of doing our numbering system where we look at a major scale and go, oh, we're going to flat this, we're going to flat that, I just recommend, because if you don't know a natural minor scale, if you don't have a fingering under your fingers, fingering under your fingers, you should. So I have included that particular, my favorite fingering for natural minor as it occurs on the root. We're starting on A. I was going to say A note. So this is an A natural minor scale, or A, Aeolian. I'm going to include that in the blog, in the tablature there for you. So learn this. You should have at least, if you're just starting out and you don't know a lot of scale shapes, you should know at a solid major scale sort of fingering to start and know the notes and the degrees. Don't just learn some 3-note per string thing that you're going to blaze through and never know what's going on. Slow down, go back to those lessons where you talked about the numbering system and learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to the root. Know where the degrees occur in the scale. Your ear is going to tell you as you play through and improvise against these chords, because you're going to hear, like I just talked about, if you land on like that B against a C, it's not going to sound right. You're going to automatically kind of want to go up to a C or down to a 5th or a 3rd, because it sounds more pleasing to the ear. But especially if you're playing this stuff with no backing track, like when you're just practicing, make sure you think about the numbers, think about the notes. Don't just learn a pattern for the sake of learning a pattern. So with that being said, there's my disclaimer. Get a minor scale under your fingers, because if nothing else, what's going to happen is, if you do that and you follow what I'm recommending and you learn a good minor scale, like let's say you learn the one I'm going to show you in the tab, and you learn a major scale, I don't know if you can see what's happened there, but you see A minor is here, C major is here. We've now basically conquered this much of the guitar. For you guys who struggle with breaking out of boxes and like wanting to use the whole guitar to solo, well, I mean, you see what happened? Like literally, this is obviously at least half the guitar. I mean, it's a lot of the guitar. You could solo here for A minor and here for C major. And once you practice that way, you're gonna start to be able to connect. These boxes will start to bleed into themselves and they don't become boxes anymore. This whole deal we talked about was breaking out of the box and trying to sort of free up our soloing technique. Well, this is, to me, a very good start. So I'm telling you to learn a shape, but it's a means to an end. So learn this one, and then make sure you have that major guide. And once you do that, these will start to sort of bleed into each other, and before you know it, you'll be working your way between each one, and then all of a sudden, like now I'm at the octave of this. I mean, this, of course, just occurs here, right? I'm running out of frets because it's a strat, and I don't play a strat a whole lot, but, right? So A and A. So I started A minor, I kind of wheedled around some C major. There's an A minor chord here, which is where I sort of did a little lick, and then I ended up up there. So again, I don't play a strat a lot, so it's tough to play up in these really high frets. I need one of these 24 fret guys to do that. So I hope that makes sense. This is a peek into where this stuff is headed. When we get these modes under our fingers and we understand the relationship of, say for instance, like we just demonstrated, A Aeolian to C major, they're clearly the same number, the same notes. They're just sort of occurring in different areas. And when you start to recognize where the thirds and the fifths are in the scale and where all the degrees and how they sound, before you know it, you're going to be able to work your way in and out of whatever melodic idea you want without without having to think about it. You can let your fingers make music, let your mind make music, and not be relying on, oh, well, I can play, this lick in A pentatonic, and then this one up here in D, maybe this one B. I mean, that's kind of neat, but you're chasing roots at that point. You're jumping from root to root. If that was the chord progression, you were playing over A, D, and E. It's a good beginner's way to solo, but it's not the way I would recommend practicing. So this, I think, will really give you a lot more tools in your toolbox to choose from. So that's Aeolian, that's minor. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I'm Matt Richard again. I hope you're getting some value out of these lessons. We are almost to the end. I don't know if you noticed, we only have one more mode before we're back at the 1 again, and that is the 7. So that one's kind of interesting. I used to call it the trash mode because I never used it, but there's some neat stuff we can do with it. I don't want to hate on it too much, so I'll fill you guys in on that one in the next lesson. Let me know, YouTube, comments, messages, whatever, Facebook, hit me up wherever you're watching this if you have anything you feel like you're missing, or if there's something, a topic maybe you want covered that you weren't clear on. I'd be glad to, maybe put a vote out there and we'll put a video together for it. All right, cool. Enjoy, have fun. I'll see you guys next time.